Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Q&A today, where we're going to dive into build projects. I'm Ben Roberts. I am the marketing director at HBXL, and my job is to try and show as many builders the benefits and the features that we have within BuildProjex, which is one of our many software platforms, which is growing all the time, new features being added, and hopefully some really exciting stuff to be coming in the coming months, as it were. Here's my co-host for this video. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Ben. Yeah, I'm Sam Smith. I'm an account manager here at HBXL. I've been in the company since BuildProjex started, so I've had quite good insight into who's using it, how people are benefiting, so which is why we wanted to produce this video.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get straight to it, right? So we're going to be talking about BuildProjex, but particularly we're going to try and break it down for everyone watching into the who, the why, and the how. So essentially, is who is BuildProjex for? Like, why is it important? How can it, and then how can I actually use it to make a difference? So by the end of this, what we're hoping is you're going to either identify someone who can really get the most out of it, and also then to see actually how that would look like from a sort of a day-to-day perspective. Because some of the scary things that we've talked about with other builders coming in is, I'm managing my jobs right now. I'm doing it. I've got emails, I've got texts, I've got all these things, and I'm either drowning or I'm just comfortable managing them, but actually I know it's not very efficient. So hopefully we're going to open up with particularly who this can benefit going forward. So before we open up the software then, Sam, can you share a little bit about, from your perspective, you've spoken with loads of builders sort of since BuildProjex came out. Who do you think BuildProjex is for?
Yeah, I mean, we have quite a few different clients, really. A lot of people are very different. No one business or two businesses are exactly the same, but we see quite a few of the same sort of businesses popping up that really kind of benefit from this. So you've got one, which is kind of a smaller builder or managing smaller jobs, but then quite a few at the same time. So it might be a few kind of kitchen refits, bathroom refits, the odd kind of loft conversion, sometimes a few extensions here and there. But they've got a lot of kind of moving parts, a lot of different jobs on different places, and it's a lot to manage all at one time. You've got kind of different people in different areas. There's no, say, real central visibility.
Yeah.
So everything that is going on is all kind of reliant on you remembering it, which is obviously very difficult.
Or shed loads of post-it notes, or
Yeah.
use them to print stuff off, and quite a manual process, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And on that, what we really see is a lot of kind of scattered information. We'll see, people getting emails from clients, having all this information in different places, nothing really kept in one place, no kind of real organization there, which tends to be quite a key issue. And another thing is not everything kind of running on the right time schedule. So we'll see a lot of lost time, really, chasing clients for updates, chasing your team for updates. And it's just, a lot of extra work that doesn't necessarily need to be there.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, and ultimately, right, from the guys that you and I have spoken to, right, is that costs money, right? Yeah. Every time that you're chasing someone, every time that a project goes over, if it could be limited, sometimes some of these things are out of your control, but perhaps you need to plan for those things going wrong. But things like a client that certain things overrunning actually was just because of poor management, and that's not to slight anyone. It's just a fact that sometimes things run over for a variety of reasons, and where we should, if we're managing, I don't know, it could be an extension, loft conversion, if it's running over by a couple of days, that's costing you money, not the homeowner money, when it should never have cost you money in the first place. And that's what part of where we want to get to with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of where we see that even more prevalent is in the builder who kind of just focuses on one job. So this might be like a large extension, large renovation. where all their kind of time and focus is on this one job. And the real kind of issue is if anything goes wrong with that, that's got a direct impact on them getting paid, especially if it's just the one job they've got on a kind of one time. So, we like to say the stakes are high on these sorts of jobs, and you really need to get it right. I think with these bigger jobs, you see people having all these different moving parts within it. And then there's a lot of things to do with miscommunication.
Yeah.
That'll be with the client, potentially with subcontractors, where they didn't even realize they were meant to be on that job at that date. And it just pushes back the whole schedule for everything else and can cause this kind of snowball effect, really, of more issues. And the person who kind of really sees the brunt of that is, in this case, the builder.
Yeah, things roll downhill essentially. If we can get less rolling downhill, then that's better for everyone, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And kind of the last real person we see coming to us is either somebody already at this scale of 2 or 3 projects at once, larger jobs, or somebody that's kind of making that jump from 1 to 2 jobs when really it's doubling their workload. So they've been managing 1, they've been fine. All of a sudden, they've got double everything. Twice the workload, twice the people to manage, and really, it's just everything can tend to slide quite a bit more.
Yeah, that makes absolute sense. And I think so. We've got 3 builds there to sort of summarize. Then you're a small builder juggling multiple jobs, right? The hard thing is how do we keep everything moving when there's lots of little things going on? The builder with actually a couple of large jobs a year, where there's actually quite a lot of risk attached to any one of them, where if one goes wrong, it potentially has a huge impact because there's either a lot of finance tied in, there's a lot of manpower tied in, and then it suddenly goes, how do we reduce that risk? Or the ones who's actually wants to grow and take on more jobs. So they're starting off, they might be doing a mix of a couple of 1 or 2 big ones a year, a couple of small ones, and actually want to grow their business. So they actually want to either take on more staff or they want to upscale the types of work that they're doing. So they're going from renovating kitchens to actually full renovations of buildings and that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. All right, then. So I think that's hopefully set the scene for everyone watching where we're trying to go is this for you and how could it impact you? So Sam, I'd like at this stage, I think it's worth firing up BuildProjex itself so everyone can get a look at that. Some of you may have seen it before. Some of you may not have. And so what we're going to do here is show you a example of what BuildProjex looks like while it's populated. So some of the questions, I think, so hopefully none of these come as too much of a surprise, Sam. We've purposely left it so Sam, as natural a conversation as possible. So Sam doesn't really know too much about what I'm going to ask. But we want to give a feel for what it actually looks like once BuildProjex is up and running in a business. If you wanted to look at how do I actually get started, so how do I physically set up the project, we've got on our YouTube channel, there is a playlist of videos, which I'll send to you guys after, that it shows you how to set up a project, how to add new members, and how to just use any of the tools. So hopefully what we're going to go into is actually Sam's going to show you a little bit of what each of these look like once they're already being used. Because sometimes we go, okay, I understand how to get started or how to do it, but what does good look like? Or what does it actually look like once I'm using it on a daily basis? Right, Simon, are you ready?
Ready.
Cool. So I think we go for the first thing is, as a manager, you need to firstly have got people into your BuildProjex. So there are 2 types of users you can have on there. Can you just sort of go into a little bit about what the 2 different types are and how they interact, how they actually use and work with your BuildProjex?
Yeah. So we have kind of 2 different types of user. We'll have a member. These are people typically you have internally in your business. This might be either employees, possibly subcontractors, because you're seeing the same faces a lot. These are really anybody that you need to have being able to edit or upload different documents. There's different levels to this. So you might assign somebody a bit of a higher access role, sort of administrator, system administrator, or you might have just typical users for just one of your average employees looking to upload different documents. But then you've also got guests as well, which may be simply somebody, either your client, possibly a subcontractor. What these are for is anybody who just needs to be able to view documents and view different things that are going on. So they're not necessarily contributing into what's going on. I mean, they can message, they can use some features, but in terms of the management, all they can do is view things you assign them, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And the difference between, so I can see here on the screen, you've got a guest that's in blue and a guest that's in white. What would that mean? So I'm managing my business. Why is one in blue, one in white?
Yeah, so white is anybody who's accepted it. So if you go to add in a new guest user, for example, you can pop in their name, email address, and then from there, they'll get an email notification. And then it's up to them to then register their account. That will be done through email. What you can see here in blue is somebody who hasn't yet accepted it.
Okay.
So once they do, they then go to this white status here, and they'll be good to go.
Okay, cool. So basically, at a glance, you've invited, say, clients who you're working on their home to invite so they can see and keep up to date about the project. And they say, I don't know what's going on. You can straight away see, well, you haven't even accepted your invite where we're posting all these updates.
Yeah,
so that allows you to then sort of have a bit of control over that situation.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, so and I think through this video, just to reiterate, we're probably going to be showing you pretty much all the user side. So from the perspective of you as the business owner, the guys who are actually going to be heavily using BuildProjex, what we'll then look at then is once at the end of the video, we'll share Sam's details. And if you want to have a look at what this will look like from your guest's perspective, so someone with limited access who just needs to say that they're on site and add some timesheets, for example, then we will be able to show you that after. And we're just trying to make sure this video is as concise as possible, but it is available as an option. If you message Sam after you've watched the video, we'll be able to show you that. Okay, Sam, so next question for you then is, one of the things you mentioned in those three sort of builder types is someone who needs to stay organized.
Yeah.
I'm that builder, right? I am self-admittedly disorganized. How am I going to use BuildProjex? What tools have we got available?
Right. Yeah, so completely reasonable. You've got the first thing really, I'd say, is the filing system. So what we mentioned earlier, having all this kind of scattered information, how can we keep that in one place and everybody have access or visibility over it? So if we go to one of our individual projects here, say job 761, what you'll notice on the right over here is our filing system. Now you can create however many projects you like. You can also say who's able to see it. So is it just the admins? Or then do you want it to be with everyone? So that includes your client if you're inviting them to the job. Or specific people, it's up to you. But what you can have here is any kind of information you want. So if you email your client some information, you need to have a record of that here. You can keep it here. Or if they requested a certain type of spec, for example, anything you might need to have in one place, you can keep here. For example, there's a few different contract items we have here. These might be visible to yourself and the client. We also get things like progress pictures stored here. I'll get into that a bit later as to how that works. And then we have some kind of other items here that we can go into. So it depends exactly what we need, but you can store everything collectively here. Another benefit is that anybody, whether they're on site, at home, whatever it might be, they can view any of these documents if they're allowed to.
Yeah. Okay, so essentially you can use basically the filing system is quite an open area where you can choose to have stuff that's visible to office staff only, and that might be, I don't know, account stuff related. I might have stuff that I've got in my projects, like my health and safety documents, that I may or may not want visible to clients. I've got things like insurance certificates that I may want to put on there, so it gives clients the satisfaction that I'm fully covered with all these things. And each of those, and I can choose to set the level of whether a client can access it or not. So again, like you use the example of a contract, there is important that everyone can see that. But if it's something around a work schedule, for example, probably might not want that visible for the end client, right? That's only for certain people. I can just choose to share the files with those people.
Yeah.
All right, Sam. So that's the filing system. So how else can I use? Is there anything else within BuildProjex I can use to stay organized and on top of things?
Yeah, I mean, obviously every part of this will help in some way towards that, but kind of a key area really is using the tasks list and the calendar to keep to keep track on kind of what's going on when, and make sure everybody else knows that as well. So in the tasks list here, we can start to add in different tasks depending on what it is we're doing. So what you can see here is a few different ones from a kind of manager's point of view. So ordering different materials based on when the job's going to start, or that certain phase is going to start, telling us exactly what we need to order. If we go in here, let's say this is excavate trench. You can say exactly where this is. We might call this job 761 as an example, whether it's private or not. So we could say yes and just only invite certain people. We could say exactly when this is going to happen. So we might set this for, say, 3 days. So all day activity. Task dependency. This actually links to the Gantt chart. So if you've built up your Gantt chart and it has all the appropriate phases, you can then build it up here. So we might just link that to foundations, for example. And then we can choose different people to assign it to. So this is our project team. This is everybody who we would have already invited. And then we can start adding in different people. So I might invite you, for example, Ben.
Nice, yeah.
And then I can give an exact description of what's going on. So if there's any particular notes, it kind of gives this hands-off approach. So you don't need to call the team to tell them exactly what they need to do. They can look here, refer to it, and then know what they're doing.
Yeah, so I'll be able to read any notes that you put on there, like that either could have been found out through the earlier parts of the work, or you might have just any of the notes I would want to share with my team that going, actually, yeah, this is coming on site later, be aware of this, X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, absolutely. And something else I quite like to do is you can create different tags in the settings. One of the things you can do is, like I've done here, you can outline different trades. So for example, we might want to say groundworks. Create that as a tag there. And then when we do, it will show up in that color in the calendar. Yep. So when you go to view it, you can see kind of which trades are where, make sure you're not doubling up on people.
Yep.
And then we can create that task.
No, and there's so I can then view all the tasks in a long list there. I can see there's also filtering options there as well, where I can actually filter things by things that are tagged. So if I know that actually I've got a guy that's in charge of all the earthworks, groundworks, actually I could filter anything by groundworks, or I can filter them by job start dates, work dates. So I know actually that these are the activities coming up that week, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Something to kind of bear in mind, this job, some of these tasks here are slightly older. So where I've tied it to the build phase on our Gantt chart, it's taken those dates. Of course, if your job was current or upcoming, this would be a bit more accurate in terms of the dates.
Yeah, perfect.
What you'll kind of notice, like we mentioned briefly before, everything will get brought up in the calendar. So this is dating back to November. So we can just go back 24 November. Or not. Right. Okay.
Sorry, Sam, don't worry about that too much there. I'll just work this in.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
No, I appreciate
okay
it.
then. So we've created the task. So we've got them in this view then. So I like to have something a bit more visual. I like to see things in a calendar format. I like to see colors. I like to sort of see things displayed, like laid out in a week. Like this is perfect for some people, but actually I like to see sort of the colors in a standard calendar layout. Can you sort of show a little bit how that works?
Yeah. So if we go into our calendar here, this is specific for this job. You can simply use your calendar. So this is currently. We could add in tasks this way as well. So whatever it might be, same process. Who we're assigning it to again. Description, all the same information. And then our tags again as well. So we can see we've got this task here, and you could build up things this way. So, for example, Ben is going to be on this task on July the 14th today. And then you can start building up your calendar this way. Yep. If you do that for the, say, individual job, you can then go back to the collective calendar. So this will be the kind of sum total of all these different projects' calendars. So you can see this task is in here with all these other ones kind of populated inside here.
Okay, nice. So as say, if we take one of those examples you gave earlier, builder with multiple jobs on the go. I'm growing my business. I've started having a couple of big jobs, a couple of small jobs on the go. I can actually see in a single view all the projects, who's assigned to where, and then I can filter that out by the tags on who's working on that at that time.
Spot on.
Nice. Okay. So you mentioned, I guess, the Gantt chart earlier. So can you sort of explain a little bit about how that's tied into the tasks and me managing sort of the guys on site for me?
Yeah. So if we go into an individual Gantt chart here, this is one we've created for this job. So you'll have each kind of task. You can zoom into these smaller tasks here. So you can kind of manage it on the left. You can add in different tasks, additional subtasks if you need to. Of course, it's all color coordinated. Then if you go to edit any given task or to click into it, we've got our links here. So any task generated that's associated with this phase in the build program will show up here. And you can kind of do it either way.
Yeah.
You can also see any collaborators. So you can add people to this task. So let's say you say your build team, like we've done here, can view this build program. They might just manage what they're having to do from here. So look at what the date is, go into this certain task, and then they think, okay, this is who's on the job. Any kind of files that correlate with this job, you can add in here.
Or like, for example, a health and safety document that's a specific risk assessment that's required for any given activity.
Absolutely, yeah. And then any kind of additional notes. So we've said here, partly to do with, we just need ready mix concrete, right? But anything you want, you can put in here.
Yeah. This is quite good though for like things like say the HSE turn up on site for an inspection, right? Within one place, you've got that's related to the job that you're on, or your contracts, your health and safety docs, who's on site, where is all in one place. So part of this is about managing your team, but hopefully also managing that for if the HSE turn up on site, you can just actually almost out of nowhere, you've got everything all in there. And that's that level of organization you can go into here.
Yeah. Yeah, there's kind of a rabbit hole of how many things you can go into, really. That will help us out.
Nice. And this Gantt chart then, so you can create this manually within BuildProjex stuff. So you could start off from a complete blank base.
Yeah.
Alternatively, if say someone on the video is listening and they've got Estimator Express, they can actually take their build program by uploading it from Estimator Express. So again, there's a getting started video for this within our YouTube channel, where you can upload your build program straight into BuildProjex and it will pre-build this for you, which I think is quite a nice little feature as well, because sometimes this looks really nice, this Gantt chart, but it can, to get used to it, sometimes it's not something that you can just go, I'm going to start making really detailed Gantt charts. It takes a bit of project management expertise and experience. However, if you have Estimator Express, you're already going to have a kickstart on that, because the bulk of it, the heavy lifting's already going to be done for you, which I think is quite a nice thing that you won't get in many other softwares.
Definitely.
All right. Okay. So thanks for that, Sam. So we've sort of got an overall handle, I think, on sort of how we get organized. So specifically, how can I keep an eye on, say, my team's progress during a job then? So we know that where we've put all the tasks in place. We know that this is what our schedule looks like. We've got a calendar. How do I actually sort of keep an eye and make sure that the people are actually where they say they are and doing what they said they were going to do?
So there's a few different ways, really, depending on what works best for you, how you want to manage it. We have firstly kind of tasks. So we've already touched on them, but you can change the progress of each one. So if you have an individual task for a day as a contractor or as an employee, you can then say in progress, completed. Or you can do this from the actual management point of view. You can wait for your team to actually upload progress pictures at the end of the day, show you exactly what it is they've done in that day. And then yourself, you can check off that certain task and say completed.
Yeah.
And
the good thing is as well, because this is on, I guess, a mobile or tablet device, is that can be done on site, right? So at the end of a working day, part of chatting with whoever's managing the site or managing the group that's on site, those progress photos, the tagging of that can be done just on site at the end of the day. So you don't have to actually be on site to sort of tick all these things off yourself or wait for someone to bring them back. Just come back to the office just to say, oh, it's being done. Actually, that can all be done and uploaded all from your mobile device.
Yeah, absolutely. Last kind of real thing is this progress section here. So you can create any different phase you want in here, then actually adjust the progress as you see fit, just to keep it a bit more kind of in-depth, really. So you might have quite a longer task, might last a few weeks. If you want to kind of get incremental updates, you can do that here.
Well, I guess as well, if I'm putting my builder hat back on again, right? I've said to the client they're going to get a lot of communication about how the job's progressing, or a client says, how is a job progressing, right? This can be visible to the clients, right? So you can get an indicative view of where their project is going to. So just by simply, you won't see all the individual tasks that are assigned to all the guys who are doing the work, but actually getting an overview of progress actually hopefully makes clients more comfortable, right? And the more comfortable a client is, the less hard time they're giving us as builders to be able to see where the job's going. So sort of a little bit of making sure we communicate really clearly and simply, which means actually we can get on with what we do best.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And having the clients being able to see kind of where the things are at on the projects means they're not having to constantly check in with you, always calling you up to ask about certain things. They can simply check here before having to speak to you. And part of that is some of the notifications that go out.
Yeah.
So on the Gantt chart, anybody can view this. Let's say your client can view this. If you make any adjustments, things get moved back slightly, the team will be emailed a notification letting you know. So you get these kind of updates, whether you're on the system or off it. So it's good way of kind of informing your clients, keeping everybody posted on what's going on, really.
Yeah, perfect. I like that a lot. So let's go into sort of managing. So related to them sort of managing of people again, is another problem I have, right? Is I've got a number of contractors. I can't be on site all the time seeing where people are and what they're doing. I know that BuildProjex has a timesheet functionality. Can you sort of show me and the other guys watching, like, how does the timesheet function work and how can I use it?
Okay, so this works just either in an individual job or across the whole lot. So in terms of the start of the timesheet, really, really simple. So you can imagine this being on your phone if you're on site. Start, and then you're good to go. You can put in a description, input the location where you are, what the job is, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
We understand not everybody remembers to do this, so you can backtrack and do the entry here. You can choose whether you want this to be allowed or not. So you don't want somebody, being at home for a day and then coming back to input a timesheet. We get it.
Okay, so you can choose whether you allow someone to literally start and stop themselves, or you can choose not to allow them to have that option.
Well, not necessarily the start or stop, but being able to put in an entry in retrospect.
Yep.
But then, if you imagine your team's always inputting these timesheets, down here in the timesheet admin section, there's a few different kind of ways of viewing this, really. So if we go to a summary here, the last ones we've got here on these jobs was kind of February, March time. That's where you got the majority. There's a lot of different ways of viewing this, depending on how you want to manage it. So we can see here just the total number of people who have logged timesheets, when it was, how long they were working for. You can be a bit more detailed and go into individual entries and see where they were at, what they were doing. If we go down to, say, entries, here you go. So, for example, William, he was at 5 Daisy Lane, and he was painting doors from this time. Well, he was there for pretty much no time. But if you take that as an example, this could be, say,
doors were already painted. That's why.
Yeah, must have been, yeah. Yeah, you can see a full report. A lot of different ways of breaking this down, so you can filter it via project. So if we wanted just a particular job, you want to track kind of how progress is going compared to the amount of labor you assigned in the quote, for example.
Yeah.
You can kind of run these things side by side. And then if you do want to export them, again, you can take it out as Excel, PDF. You can kind of run these or use them in future for your kind of job costings, things like that.
Yeah, because again, that for me it'd be important, right? Is I've got a lot of, as I'm growing my business, I've got a lot of guys out on different sites. I need to know how much I'm paying them, because again, time, if the jobs are taking longer than they should, how do I manage that in terms of pricing, and being able to attribute the actual like labor time spent on site means actually I can manage that budget. I understand how much things are actually costing, or whether things are going over or under. But one thing I think I would also want to see, right, is I see on one of the columns here you've got location.
Yeah.
What does that do? Does someone just put in a manual location saying where they are, or?
So you can do, or something we do have built in is geo-tracking. What this means is, if you allow it, on your phone, which to log a timesheet you have to. You can choose to turn this off, by the way. It's completely optional. But you can have kind of automatic tracking. So you log a timesheet, it shows where you are. So let's say one of your employees is actually sitting in McDonald's, you'd be able to see it.
We've all known it to happen.
Yeah. So if we go into here, this is where the location was logged from, and then you can see that exactly. So if it matches up with your job site, you're good to go. If not, then I suppose there's possibly a few issues there.
Yeah. I think it just give that indication, right? The geo-tracking isn't perfect, but what it's going to do is give you a pretty indication. If they're over the other side of London, they're probably not on site. But actually, if it's the case of that, it shows they're a street away, there is a margin for error. But hopefully, I think from my perspective, like with my boys, I want to know that it's pretty good. They're pretty trustworthy, but I do need to I'm tight on budget. I'm tight on money, right? I need to make sure that everyone is working, doing what they say they're going to do when they say they're going to do it. So
yeah, absolutely.
All right. Okay. Is there anything else you think you want to share from sort of a management perspective?
I think that was okay.
Okay, good. All right. So one of the other things then, so we talked about in the 3 builders at the start about using it as a way to communicate with clients or contractors. What functionality does BuildProjex have around sort of the communications side of things?
Yeah, okay. So within kind of any individual job, we have this messages function. So you see there's not one created on this project, but you can add it in, say, for example, team chat. This could be, everybody who's actually working on the project. You can add them in very simply. You could also create one simply for you and the client. Benefit of doing that, everything you kind of create here or message about here, you've got a record of in the same place. So it's not worrying about having, in some places there's emails, you might be also on WhatsApp, you might be texting, there might be even, phone calls as well. Everything you can't really keep in one place, you can start to add in just on these chats. So, for example, if you were doing a kitchen for one of your clients, you needed to find out what kind of spec they're looking for, or something to do with the actual fit out of the kitchen, you could just put it in here. So let's, if we just create a job here, create a chat, can add an Andy. Assume Andy's the client in this example. And if we go into it, we could say, hi Andy, have you reviewed the spec? Do you know which, say, color you're looking for? And they say yes. They might even show you some photos here that you can look up and then kind of store in your filing system as well. So things like that, being able to keep these records in the same place, have that kind of level of communication, not having to bounce around between different apps to actually get that level of communication. And that's what we kind of look for here. Yeah,
and I think it's a nice way of doing things. And what you can also do is I know that the guys on my team are really comfortable using WhatsApp. That has its pros and cons, right? What you can do is actually share links back to your build projects within your WhatsApp. I think some of the feedback we've had is some people are actually using another communication platform. We're using it all through WhatsApp. Everyone understands WhatsApp. And as part of that is, yes, the communications might be something that, yes, you don't have necessarily directly linked, but what you might do is use this exclusive for client comms, or instead of actually all that, and then you can just send the links back to the jobs, the project in your build project. So they don't have to be mutually exclusive where actually you only use WhatsApp and can't use BuildProjex, or because BuildProjex has a messages function, I'm going to try and shoehorn my way in, or actually it might work perfectly for you. You just want everything in one place. And there is flexibility in that, because the joy of having, say, you can see at the top there, the URL that can be shared within WhatsApp, so that people can actually then just click back to the job. So you're like, hey Sam, you haven't logged your timesheet, or you haven't marked on the job. You just sign to build projects and do that.
Yeah.
So they can link to get, they're not say dynamically sync, but you can use WhatsApp to drive people back to your workers to actually sign off on projects.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So in terms of that, so we've covered a lot of projects. We've covered sort of the sort of main areas in terms of the management, the organization, some of the communications. Before we sort of go on to sort of how it can help grow the business, is there anything else that you think it's important to reiterate or show within the platform that I know, anything else that you'd like, that you think other builders like me are going to appreciate?
I think we've covered the majority of it. I suppose really it's very interesting to see when I speak with my clients what kind of use cases they find for it as well. I mean, everybody does things slightly differently. Just like you said, some people might tie on their WhatsApp. So just seeing different ways people use the software. So it completely varies. So you might come up with a new way that we haven't quite seen yet. So it's I mean, it's really just kind of customizing it to suit your needs, really.
Yeah, and I think that's why we wanted to do this video, right? Because sometimes it's really difficult to visualize how you could actually use a platform when it's blank. You're not using something like it before. Where on earth I understand the practicalities of how do I set up a project, but what does a project actually look like once it's up? How are other people using BuildProjex? Yeah. And I think that links quite nicely with how you can actually use to help grow your business. I think so. One of the things that I've looked at in terms of chatting people through and speaking with you about the guys who are using BuildProjex is people are actually using BuildProjex more and more to actually grow their business. So the core reason that people seem to look at BuildProjex initially is the management, the organization, being able, because all the things like the tools within here are really project managing, task management sort of style tools. But the flip side of that is actually you can actually use it as a tool to be able to win customers over. So for example, like we've just done here, we've shown you an operational version of BuildProjex. Being able to show that to a potential client from the offgoing is they say, I think almost every builder is going to say, yeah, we'll be clearing comms. You're going to be able to see what's going on. I don't think that I've really met a builder who hasn't really tried to say that from the start. Or if they don't mention comms, there's a reason they haven't mentioned comms, right? Because they don't believe it themselves, which is absolutely fine. But what you can do here is actually demonstrate to a client from the off without this is how we're going to sort of manage the project. This is how we're going to communicate with you. Here's an example of us actually doing it. So you're demonstrating quality. So you can actually use it as part of your sales pitch, essentially, to win the work. Now, from a client perspective, I'm looking at this going, wow, this builder's professional. They've got their stuff together. Everything's as I'd want to see. I can see the progress. Wow, why would I not want to work with people? We talk about actually pricing upwards as opposed to trying to win price down. By showcasing something that can add value like this, it's far easier for you to justify why you're maybe not the cheapest quote they're going to be, but you're going to be a much better quality and a better builder for them to choose. So I think it's really important that you can actually use this once you've got it up and running, you can actually use it as a sales tool to win more jobs, to win higher value and higher paying jobs. It's not just about managing now. There are load of other benefits that come along with that. And that's got me thinking then, Sam, probably sort of going into sort of probably the final question for you, really. You're speaking to loads of people at the moment who are now using BuildProjex. So we launched BuildProjex a year and a half ago now, year and a bit ago. What's the biggest change that we've had sort of these people have actually all come through and renewed now their build projects for another year because it's an annual subscription. What's the biggest change that they found when using build projects? Why are they renewing and why are they staying around?
I think it's one of these things. Once you get it set up and you run your projects through it, you kind of see all the benefits. You see how much that makes your life easier, simpler. We hear a lot of people feel kind of greater level of control. Less chaos around, and there's really just fewer mistakes being made.
Yeah.
And I suppose another thing for our builders who are managing all the projects themselves, they don't have an admin team. It's just getting a bit more time back as well, not just on site, but just in their life in general as well. They're not spending as much time in their evenings, head down and admin, chasing up different people, that sort of thing. And it's really nice to hear, to be honest.
Yeah. Extra hour at the pub, extra week holiday a year, whatever it is you want to do, man. That's what we want to get to, right? And the fact as well, I think, is if you have, say, any other HBXL building software right now, is there are increased benefits because everything syncs together. So that, as I mentioned with the Gantt chart, is that can accelerate the creation of a Gantt chart. If you've got health and safety expert, you can import those health and safety docs within a couple of clicks. Now, all of this doesn't say that you can't do this manually, because we have other people, again, that don't have other software. But actually, there are those synchronized benefits that you have from having multiple platforms that talk to each other. So to finish up then, I think we've shown you today, well, Sam has shown you, I'm going to take zero credit for Sam's work there, is Sam showing what build projects looks like in reality. If you have any other questions, so again, guys watching, if you want to have like a more personalized demonstration, or you want to be able to have a demo and actually look at it in terms of your personal situation, I'm going to put just stay right, like probably another minute, just so I'm going to put up all Sam's details. I'm also going to put up a little offer for you guys as well for watching this video. So I'm going to put all that up as soon as I finish speaking. But yeah, you can book a demo, get started on a trial. It might be worth some people prefer to just get stuck into the trial. Some people prefer to have a chat with Sam first. I do recommend it if you are interested, even if it's a short conversation with Sam, do book that in. Do just find out any tips and advice from him. And you can also book in a full demo as well. Is that covered everything from your end, Sam? Is there anything else you'd like? Any other parting wisdom you'd like to give anyone watching?
I wouldn't say it's quite wisdom, but I think we're all good.
Great. All right, so I am going to say goodbye now. Oh, well, Sam and I will say bye now, and I am, as we say bye, I am going to put all the details you need on the screen for getting in contact with Sam and to be able to claim the discount offer that we have given you because you have watched right the way to the end of this video. And the reason is I didn't mention it at the start is because I want to see how many people watch to the end. Right, thank you very much for watching, everyone. It's been a pleasure. So thank you from me.
And thank you from me.